One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.
I feel like I'm always asking this question when it comes to athletic director searches, but would you put fundraising at the very top of the list of a desired skill that the new athletic director needs to have and have a track record of doing really well?
Yeah, I think you have to. And I neglected to leave that out. Of course, that's a huge deal. Now, Jessup has said, and I've asked him about fundraising because one of the knocks on Tina Murphy is she didn't do a lot of fundraising herself. She relied on the coaches. Tony Sanchez has been the one mostly responsible for this. For the football building, the funds have been raised for it, and they have a nice, pretty new baseball clubhouse that the previous coach Tim Chambers was responsible for raising. Lon Kruger was the one who was really responsible for getting the Mendenhall practice facility done for basketball. So, but I asked Jessup about that, and he said that that's the way he prefers it. He prefers the coaches be the lead ones when it comes to fundraising because they're the ones with the better connections and they're the ones who really know what they want. But I do think you still have to have an athletic director come in and be strong in that area because Sanchez has spent a lot of time away from football trying to raise funds for this football building. That's time taken away from game planning and being with his players and his assistant coaches, and so that hurts him in that regard. But he's had to do it. So I do think that the new athletic director will want to take some of that burden off him. Now you still want Tony Sanchez as like the league guy when it comes to trying to increase revenue, but he can't do it all. So I think the new athletic director is going to have to step in, and there's a lot of untapped money in this market. Steve Wynn was part of the Athletics years ago, and there was some sort of rift that developed, and he hasn't been part of it. If I was new AD, that might be my first call is to Steve Wynn. It's like, what can we do to get you involved? And that's where the new AD can really come in and make a huge difference. Where that's not necessarily sports specific, even though Steve Wynn's had an interest in basketball. He can come in and help the overall athletic program if he's interested in doing it, and you just got to reach out and see if he's interested.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective that you just described by President Jessup on the fundraising angle. Is to a degree, is the future of UNLV athletics tied to these three things? A, Tony Sanchez's success, and this is not to downplay the importance of men's basketball or any other sport within the portfolio, but A, Tony Sanchez and football success. B, the potential construction of the new football stadium alongside the Raiders. And then C, and not to say the Fertittas are in the same category as Phil Knight or Boone Pickens. Heck, maybe they are, but let's assume they aren't. Is their giving capacity, as long as Tony's having success, and if he has even higher level success, is their giving capacity pretty extreme here to continue to, I'm going to use the word pour money into, invest in college athletics for UNLV?
Well, first of all, football drives the bus nationwide. So if UNLV wants to get into a Power 5, the football program has to improve. It's a must. The basketball program can get back to a national level and go back to Final Fours and that sort of thing. But if the football program is basically the Kansas of the West, then I don't think it matters. So they need to get that football program going. And so, yeah, that is huge. That Tony Sanchez has got to get this thing turned around. And I think the football facility he's raising money for is more important than the stadium. The stadium's nice and everything, but it's going to be a 65,000-seat stadium, and if you draw 20,000 people in there, 25,000 or whatever, it's just going to look empty. So I do think it's going to be a little bit of a recruiting advantage, but I think that football facility that they're working on getting done is even more important because that's where players spend most of their time. They spend far more time there than they will at a stadium, and that's where they're going to basically live. And so if they can get that done, and I think they'll be able to break ground probably in the next few months, then that will be a huge recruiting boost. And So that is, and I think, and Sanchez, I think, is seeing that as the greater priority than the stadium. Um, and ultimately, if he really does get the program turned around and they get great fan interest, then 65,000 seat stadium won't be so bad, especially if they make a Power Five. And as far as the Fertittas go, I don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. They're pretty quiet about what they do. It's more speculation on my part that maybe they use their influence to get Tony that extension. But I wouldn't be surprised if that had something to do with it. I mean, it's $10 million. It's $10 million, and you're putting that kind of money forward. I don't know that you're necessarily going to be quiet behind the scenes. Now, how active will they be going forward once this project is completed? Well, I think they have a vested interest in seeing that Tony Sanchez does well. So I think they're going to give him whatever tools he needs to get this thing going.
How could this thing end that would be totally shocking to you? What would be off the radar in terms of the type of hire that President Jessup could make?
If he stayed local, if he and there's been a feeling for years and years that UNLV needs to hire someone locally because it's a unique market and UNLV's a unique school. But I think that's been proven wrong. It's not as unique as a lot of locals would like to believe, so if he hired someone locally, someone maybe he's already at UNLV, maybe someone who's involved in athletics in the city, that would really surprise me at this point, because every indication I've gotten is he really wants to make a big splash and make this a true national hire. So I don't think he'll go local, but if he did, that would be the one real surprise.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.